Hey there, hope you're doing well. Today I want to look at this 2004 Nissan Frontier with the supercharged 3.3 and talk about something that sometimes can be overlooked. So I just got this truck and I'm going to be doing the timing belt on this. This only has a little over 49,000 miles, but the issue is the age. It's 22 years old. And you guys know what happens to rubber when with age. It just dry rots and cracks. And supposedly this is an interference motor. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it now so that I don't have an issue down the road, because supposedly this is an interference motor, which means when the timing belt breaks, your valves can hit the piston and cause all kind of damage. So we're going to just do a little bit of maintenance now so that I can have long life with this truck. But what I wanted to talk about is the noise I heard when I was trying to start the engine or when I turned the engine off. I heard a knocking noise. It sounded like a piston knock. And those for you that don't know, you have a connecting rod with your piston at one end and it's connected to the crankshaft, and there's a bearing there where it connects to the crankshaft, and when that bearing wears due to mileage or lack of maintenance, you get a little bit of slop in that and it will knock against the crankshaft as your crank is turning over, and it makes a bad knocking noise. And if you don't catch it early enough, it can be pretty damaging. Usually calls for engine rebuild if it gets too severe. If you catch it early enough, sometimes you can just replace the bearings, but that's not what this noise is. And I kind of had a feeling it wasn't, because under load this wasn't making any noise at all. Okay, and that's generally when you hear a rod knocking, it gets worse with RPM. The higher the RPM, the worse that sound gets. So when you accelerate and put the engine under a load, that's when you really hear that knock. This wasn't doing that at all. The engine ran perfect once it started. So we're going to get up under here. I'm going to show you what's causing this. All right, guys, so I'm up under the truck and I've got the starter removed. Okay, so you can see that bolt there. That's your torque converter bolt. Okay, I'm going to try to, sorry about that. I'm going to try to get my hand up in there. I want you to hear this noise. Okay, that's that torque converter slapping around in there because that bolt is loose. Well, all the bolts are loose. Okay, so what I'm going to do there, you can see the torque converter behind the flex plate, and that's what attaches your engine to your transmission. That torque converter is part of your transmission. The flex plate is where your starter engages. You see the teeth there, and that's what turns your engine over. And you see that bolt, all those bolts are loose, and it's causing that torque converter to slap around, which sounds like a rod knocking, but it's not. All right, I wish I could, there's not enough room to get the camera in here and my hand in there at the same time. And I'm sorry that I didn't make a video of the engine or the sound it was making when it was turning over, but I was kind of anxious to get on this and figure out what was going on with it. I kind of had a suspicion this was what it was. I had this happen once before, a long time ago, but as you guys can see, that's an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the bolts out one at a time. You have to pull that bolt out and then turn it, and then I'm going to clean it with brake clean and then blow it out with air, make sure it's all dry, and then I'm going to put Loctite on those and then re-torque them, and that should solve the issue. So we'll get this all back together, and then I'll turn the engine over with a starter, and then we'll see what it sounds like. All right, guys, we got the truck back together, so let's start it up and see if it makes any noise. That's when it made the noise, is when it was starting up and shutting off. Yeah, that sounds a heck of a lot better. I don't hear that knocking now when I start it and turn it off. So yeah, that's all it was the loose torque converter bolts. You know, hopefully you got an honest mechanic that you can take it to, and you know, he can just tighten those up if it's making that noise on startup and shut off. And he won't try to tell you, you know, yeah, you need a complete engine rebuild because you got a rod knocking. And that goes for, this goes for any, you know, automatic transmission with gears and a torque converter. You know, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Nissan, Toyota, anything that has just your run-of-the-mill automatic transmission. If you're hearing that noise, check those torque converter bolts. All right, guys, I hope this helps you. Like and subscribe.